Hi, my name is Madison Satter, and today I will be demonstrating, evaluating, and coaching 3 exercises with their different variations. For the first exercise, it was a squat. My 3 variations were a back squat, a goblet squat, and a Bulgarian split squat. And then next we had to choose bench press or push-ups. I did bench press with the bar, and then my variation was then bench press with dumbbells. And then next was 2 core exercises with their different variations. I did plank shoulder taps and the bicycles. In this video, I will also be evaluating my client's movement and discuss tests and measures with them and demonstrate all the exercises. Our first variation of a squat is going to be the back squat. First, when you're setting up, make sure that bar, when you unrack it, it's to your chest. I unracked it higher because for my client, I didn't want her to squat down too far. But starting with the back squat, start with your feet shoulder width apart and your toes turned slightly outward. Position the barbell across your upper traps, not your neck, and keep your chest tall, engaging your core before moving. On the way down, or eccentric phase, push your hips back like you're sitting into a chair. Keep your knees tracking over your toes and go about parallel or slightly below if mobility allows. On the way up, or concentric phase, drive through your heels, push your knees slightly out, and return to standing while keeping your chest lifted. The primary muscles targeted are quadriceps, glutes, and hamstrings, with secondary activation of core muscles. Now it is time to evaluate my client. First, I'm going to make sure that her hands are parallel with her feet and that bar is not sitting on her neck, it's more sitting on her upper traps. And then I'm just going to evaluate her squat really quick. And right off the bat, we can see that she's leaning too far forward and she's arching her back a little more than she should. So I'm talking to her right now about how she can straighten her back more. Don't arch it as bad and don't lean as forward. She's keeping her knees over her toes and she's not going on top of her toes. She's staying on her heels, which is really good. But we really just need to work on squatting down and keeping that back flat. But as she does a couple more reps, she's getting a lot better. But we obviously still do need to work on her stability on the squat and keeping her back flat. For the next exercise, I'm going to demonstrate the next variation, which is the goblet squat. You're going to hold a dumbbell at chest height, keep the same squat mechanics, and focus on staying upright. This exercise is very great for beginners, improving squat depth. Next, I'm just evaluating my client for our second variation of a squat, just reminding her to keep on her heels, keep those feet shoulder width apart, getting the depth, and keeping her chest high. She's doing a very good job. Now I'm going to demonstrate our last variation of the squat, the Bulgarian split squat. Place one foot behind you on the bench, step forward with the other leg, and then lower straight down, keeping your torso tall. This targets the quads and the glutes while improving balance and strength. And then for analyzing my client, I'm just going to make sure I set her up correctly because this exercise is very new to her. So I just want to make sure that she does everything right and we don't cause any injury. When observing my client, I noticed right off the bat when she started squatting, her knee was going way over her toe, which is not what you're supposed to do. So I made sure to correct that, make sure to ask her to get that heel more forward, and I'm also making sure that she's going straight up right because she was leaning forward a lot, and we are doing body weight with her since this exercise is fairly new to her. And then we just did a couple with the other side so that we had some even strength. Next up was either barbell bench press or push-ups, and my client wanted to do the barbell bench, so right now I'm just demonstrating for her. I lie flat on the bench, feet firmly on the ground, and grip the bar slightly wider than my shoulder width, keeping my shoulder blades retracted and my core engaged. On the eccentric phase, I'm lowering the bar to just above your chest, keeping your elbows at about a 40-degree angle to protect my shoulders. On the concentric phase, I press the bar upward until my arms are fully extended without locking out. The main muscles targeted are the pectorals majors, triceps, and anterior deltoids. Now I am observing my client on the bench press. First, I wanted to correct her form, make sure her hands were farther width apart. I also wanted to start her on the Smith machine because I didn't want her having to worry about controlling the bar. I'd rather the bar just go on its own and just correct her form. So I am showing her to go all the way up without locking her elbows, and then I'm also telling her to fix her wrist because she was bending them a lot, and I wanted to prevent injury as much as possible. And then I'm making sure she's going down to 45 degrees, and then I make sure she explodes back up without locking her elbows. Now I'm going to demonstrate the one variation to the bench press with the barbell, which is the dumbbell variation. I hold a dumbbell in each hand and then press them up together and keep the same elbow angle for both. Now I'm going to evaluate my client. Definitely making sure she's going slow and controlled since she has never done a dumbbell bench press before. I definitely could have critiqued her at the time to make sure that these dumbbells were more over her chest instead of being by her neck. But she's doing a really good job, and she did observe herself that one arm was stronger than the other one. But I definitely made sure to critique to make sure they were going at the 45-degree angle and that she was exploding back up without locking her arms. Our last exercise, which is the core exercises with two different variations. For the first variation, I did plank shoulder taps, where you start in a high plank position with your wrist underneath your shoulders and then your feet together. You keep your hips level and your core tight as you lift one hand to tap the opposite shoulder, alternating sides. The primary muscles targeted are the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis, with secondary activation of shoulders and glutes for stability. For our last variation, we have the bicycle. For the bicycle crunch, you lie on your back, hands behind your head, legs in tabletop position, and then you extend one leg out while bringing the opposite elbow to the opposite knee, alternating sides. The target muscles are the rectus abdominis and obliques. Next, I'm going to observe my client doing the plank shoulder taps. Right off the bat, I told her to keep her body straight because her butt was a little bit too high in the air. And then when she first started doing reps, I noticed her wrists were way too above her shoulders, so I made sure to align those with her shoulders. And then doing a couple reps, I realized we needed to stabilize her core a little more. She was rocking back a little too much, not really emphasizing her core in this exercise, just rocking back and forth. Moving on to the bicycle crunch. At first, when she first started doing them, she didn't fully extend her knee out. She just kept them up close, which I did correct that after the first rep. I made sure to keep those knees out to fully extend to really stretch out those abdominal muscles. Now for our test and measures. Our first test and measure is going to be the 1 minute squat test. So there's my minute timer, and then we begin. I chose the 1 minute squat test because it was relevant to all our squat variations. My camera sadly did cut out half of our squats, but both of us did end up getting 30 squats, and when I pull up the test and measures norms, 30 for 18 through 25, we have an average on the squat test. For my second test and measures, I chose the plank hold since it was relevant to our core exercises we did. For my time, I got 35 seconds, and for her, she got 37, which in our chart, it says below average for both of us. And thank you for watching.